Hey there guys, how you doing? I've got not one, but two new cameras to demonstrate to you today. Hopefully you can see I've got a Uranus-C Pro and the Aries M Pro. These have been sent over to me from Player One Astronomy, and as usual I just want to make this abundantly clear right from the get-go. I've got complete creative freedom and control with these things. I can do and say whatever I want, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It just wouldn't be in the spirit of me or my channel. So you're going to get an honest look at these brand new cameras, the first look, I think, on YouTube. And hopefully, any questions that you have, I'll be able to answer in the comments down below too. So don't be shy, you know, get yourself in there and type out anything you want to know. And I will do my best. So basically, guys, there's going to be a lot of similarities between these two new camera designs as we're going to take a look in a moment. So I thought I'd just do a side-by-side unboxing for them rather than two separate videos. Later on, when it comes to actually testing these things outside underneath the night sky, then I will split up into separate videos and they'll be coming in the future when we actually get some clear skies. So yeah, let's just get on with it. Alright guys, let's dive straight into this one. I've got the color camera on the left, the mono camera on the right. And I'm going to do my best to do a double unboxing for you, as ridiculous as this is. So put these off to one side. Let's take a look at what's the same and what's different. So we've got the main USB-C to USB-A cables over there, a USB-B rather. Looks like both come with a screwdriver and a long USB-A to C this time for both cameras. Yeah, both do indeed come with a small posi drive screwdriver. Good to see. The traditional air blower. Pretty darn cool. Let's just take a look at this. Now this is one of the main unique selling points, I think, if I could get it out of the box. For both of these cameras, you'll note it comes with a extra tilt adapter. This is a rearward facing 4-point tilt adapter. Pretty awesome, but that's not where it stops, because both cameras, I'll just undo one at a time. So this is the color, real quick. The color, as you can see, comes also with a front facing 3-point that you can unscrew and reattach this one in its place if you like, and keep the same back focal distance as you initially had, 17.5 millimeters. Now the first thing that struck me is just how nice this thing looks. It's real carbon fiber, so it's not just an effect, it's actually, you know, true carbon fiber. It looks and feels incredible. The gel coat on it is perfect. What can I say? This is impressive, and the price that this thing's coming in at is $550 for a fully cooled one-shot color camera. I just don't think that that can be beat. Let's take a little bit of a look at this sensor. So I've got a metal cover. There's the sensor. I don't want to talk over the top of it for risk of getting anything unsavory on top of it. Now let's take a look at the mono. Same deal. So as you can see, we've got that same 3-point tilter on there, which can be swapped out again for the 4-point tilter, which is probably what I'll do, because I think these are a fantastic system. But once again, perfect gel coat. Carbon fiber just looks incredible. It's such a high-tech looking finish, you know what I mean? Really, really, really impressive. Majorly premium products. Let's take a look at that sensor so you can get a feel for the size. Alright, that's enough of that. Tempting fate, getting dust on it and stuff. But yeah, these things are surprisingly light as well. I believe they come in at 420 grams. Now, I do know that the monochrome camera right here, the Aries M Pro, has actually some extras over the original 533s that appeared on the market. This one has dual read modes, so it's got a normal readout mode and a low read noise mode 2, which way it kind of reads out a little bit slower, but also reads out with lower overall read noise. It also has an increased extended full well capacity and higher frame rates over equivalent cameras that are on the market, so that's awesome to see. Now you can see the case in both cases. excuse the pun. Comes with its own kind of carbon fiber-ish finish on top. We have a USB-C to C link cable included in both. We've got a pack of screws for attaching that tilt plate, I do believe, or instead if you want to attach the accessories that you can buy, such as the off-axis guider, that kind of thing, or your filter drawer or filter wheel system, an Allen key, a adapter package. So I'll just undo one of these so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. So just inside, I'll have to screw this the wrong way. There we go. So we've got a, what is this one? M48 female to M42 male, 17.5 millimeter, attached to an M48 male to M42 female, 0 back focus length adapter, a 1.25 inch rather nose piece, also lovely made, and you can see as well the quality of the finish and the blacking on the inside of these. Perfect, no marring or anything like that. You're not going to have any trouble with internal reflections. And also in the box is an M42 female to M42 male. So with your adapter, these two can go together and get you to a neat 55mm back focus solution. There's also a cable management strap in there. So that's about that, guys, for taking a look at those. Next thing we're going to do now is jump over to the PC and test the frame rates. Hey guys, I just thought I'd insert a quick tutorial on how to basically swap from the 3-point tilter to the 4-point tilter that comes with it in the box. So here's how I'm going to do things for you. So take a look at the back of the camera first. You can see all the text is the correct way up. The USBs and the power are at the top. Rotate the camera about 180 degrees and you should have one pair of push-pull screws right at the top. So we're going to put that facing away from us, okay? Now if you take a look at the 4-point tilt adapter, you can see that 2 pairs of these push-pull adapters can form a triangle. See, like these 2 empty holes here and this populated one right there, that coincides with where we're going to want to actually place it. The reason I'm pointing that out is because it's technically possible to put this on wrong. Like, let's say for example this, you could attach it, but your push-pull adapters for the tilt plate would be not coinciding with the edges of the sensor, which of course you want them to be for accurate tilt adjustments. So you're going to want to make sure it's that kind of set up like that. Now we are going to take this thing apart to be able to put it on. So just undo all the screws. Right, they're roughly snapped. Just keeping that facing the same direction away from us. I'm going to go another step now and make sure that this thing is completely indexed in its home position by undoing the grub screws to the point where they can't possibly interface with the front faceplate of the tilt adapter. So when we tighten this thing back down, it will truly be in its home position. So that would be where you want to actually start from for tilt adapting, tilt adjusting. Alright, so let's just get rid of this last screw right there. That's good. So I'm going to take this plate off a moment, like so. Now we're going to take off, whoops, this faceplate. Got all of those undone. Just make sure they're fully wound out. And now at this point, I'm going to be able to take this thing off. So I'm going to try and keep talking to a minimum right now, just for a few moments. Take out your 4 screws from here, and with this in the same orientation as it was before, with the triangle being formed, flip it over so it's like this. Now I'm going to pre-index 6 of these screws, so I'm not messing around and risking dropping them on the sensor cover glass or anything like that. I'll just get 6 out if I can. 3, 5, 6. Just drop them in. This is fiddly because I've got pretty big hands. right there, roughly in. And now you can see we can just drop it in place, and with a little wiggle everything should be lined up. Now to tighten each one of these in, just a small back turn until it drops in its threads. That prevents you having any chance of cross threading your fasteners. Alright, with them all just now indexed a bit, I'm going to go around and in a kind of wheel nut pattern torque them all down. So once again, now your faceplate lined up, the 3 points, you can flip that over, place it on top, turn the whole thing now upside down while keeping it clamped together, and using the middle hole for each of these. Hopefully you can see just on the front and the side ones here what I'm doing. Just going to drop those in, and using the back of the Allen key, again a small backwards wind until you feel it drop in. Just wind these in just one by one. Slightly longer Allen key and slightly smaller hands would make this easier. I'm not gonna lie. Alright, so I'm just gonna get these roughly thumb tight for now. They don't need to be crazy tight. And now I'm gonna just make these down, the grub screws themselves, so that they now mate to the faceplate just gently. I don't want them, you know, pushing down hard or anything. It'd be kind of pointlessly putting pressure on the threads at this point. Alright, that's finished. Now just one more little nip up on all of these. Swap over your cover. Small back turn on that as well, why not? Can't cross thread it then. And now keep these all safe and you're done. Now then guys, it's the next day. I decided to do a proper test on this camera and fish out my portable power supply, get that thing charged and ready to go. So as you can see, I've got the Uranus-C Pro hooked up right now to both power and USB. It is ready and waiting to be tested in SharpCap and Nina. The latest versions are installed, and so are the latest drivers. We are ready to fly. But before we do that, I thought I'd just really briefly, and I mean briefly, take a look at the Uranus-C Pro's page, and then also for the same thing for the Aries. So first off, that Uranus, the price, man, $549 is coming in at, which for the camera alone is nuts. You know what I mean? It is unbeatable that you're getting a fully cooled camera with all of those goodies that come in that box for that price. Awesome. Nothing more to say on that. I just don't think it's a beatable value proposition anywhere. Now, on the spec sheet side of things, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but 12-bit analog to digital converter, so that's the bit depth of that thing. 47 frames per second is achievable at 4K resolution. 91% quantum efficiency at its peak, and now I do believe that Player One are using for this an absolute measurement rather than, like, you'll see sometimes graphs where it looks like the quantum efficiency goes all the way up to 100%, but it never does. It's just a relative graph. So anyway, readout noise 0.7 electrons and 38.8 thousand electrons full well capacity at zero gain, 512 meg DDR3 buffer, adjustable anti-dew heater, and it doesn't mention here I don't think, but it's also got an adjustable fan on these things, which is really neat. 40 degrees Delta T for the cooling, and as we've mentioned before, Type-C USBs, which I'm personally a fan of. You know what I mean? You use them every single day. I've used this example before, but you use them every single day in your phone, or at least I do, and I have done for years. Never had one fail. I know I'm a small sample size, but there's a reason they use them. I reckon they're a good connector. Now, if we just scroll down a little bit, you can see the size, 11.2mm by 6.3 for the Uranus. Let's keep going. It's 420 grams, so it's a nice light camera. Scroll down a little bit more. So amp glow, by the way, 0 amp glow on both of these cameras. That is really, really good news. Obviously, well, you can get by with cameras with amp glow, and the you know, they can oftentimes be calibrated perfectly. I'd rather just not have to do that anyway with one of these cameras. Do you know what I mean? Get something that's got no amp glow and just enjoy your life. Get on with it. That's my advice. Scrolling down just a little bit more. So HCG mode opens at gain 180 on this camera, and that's where I'm going to use it most of the time. HCG means high conversion gain mode, and all that effectively means is you're going to get a drop off a cliff, really, in read noise, which is what you want, the lowest read noise possible, and a boost at the same time in dynamic range. So it goes from being 4 electrons of read noise at gain 150 down to 1.126 electrons at gain 180, and at the same time your dynamic range rather boosts right the way back up to a full 12 stops. So that's awesome. That's probably where I'm going to be using this camera nearly all the time. But again, as it said on that spec sheet, right down to 0.7 electrons of read noise if you turn the gain up for things like lucky imaging. Dark current, it's a nice linear response to temperature, but I mean all the way across it's pretty vanishingly low. So it's good to see that if you do cool this thing deeply, you know, -10, -20 or something like that, you're going to be dealing with literally vanishing amounts of thermal noise. We're talking 0.0004 electrons per second per pixel at -20. That is nuts. That's super duper low, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Aries is even lower. I'll have to double check that in a moment, but here's the relative response. You see it's written at the side there for this one, so this is a relative graph, not the absolute measurement like we saw at the top, but we get a peak in response on these StarViz 2 sensors over to the infrared. So by about 850 nanometers, all of the Bayer matrix filters effectively become transparent, and it starts to act and respond a lot more like a monochrome camera would, which is interesting to see. Anyway, it gives you a lot of options when shooting. There's different drawings for your back focal length solutions, and also there's a full breakdown of what you get in the camera package. Awesome. Next up, the Aries is coming in base price, the monochrome version at least, of $999. Super pricing, especially again for what we've seen that you get, but it can also be bundled with the filter wheel 8x1.25 and the FHD OAG Mini for $1,400. And I've actually got on hand the filter wheel right here. We'll just take a real quick look. Hopefully you can see that. So it's a neat little solution. I don't have it bolted on yet. I've just got it using the male-to-male screwed connector because I'm probably going to be doing a lot of swapping around during testing, and I don't want to be taking faceplates off and stuff each and every time for that. But anyway, let's just dash on with it a little bit, guys. So pricing, awesome. You know what I mean? I can't say a bad word about that. And I think the Aries-C is coming in even cheaper. A 14-bit ADC on these cameras. It's got that square format sensor, as we talked about. It's capable of achieving 43 frames per second at full resolution. 91% quantum efficiency peak in mono, and the color camera has an 80% quantum efficiency peak, so both are super sensitive. 1 electron read noise, massively deep full well capacity on the Aries, 73,000 electrons. That's boosted over the base count this sensor should be. 512 meg DDR buffer, again that adjustable anti-dew heater, 40 degrees of cooling delta. Mega. Do you know what I mean? This thing is absolutely mega. As you can see, like we talked about, that square format sensor. This is a Sony StarViz 1 sensor, and the measurement right there, 11.3 by 11.3. Scroll down a little bit further, the same weight on this, 420 grams. And yeah, the IMX533 basic sensor should have 50,000 electrons of full well, but they've somehow managed to pull out 73,000 electrons. So it's been extended a long way. I'm not sure how they've done that, but they've done that. You know, if they're saying it, it's going to be there. So 20 frames per second is what your normal one should get, but the Aries series are coming out with 43 frames per second. That's nuts. We're going to put that to the test in RAW 8 mode, apparently. And the Aries also has a dual readout mode. I forgot about this for a moment there. So it's got normal mode and low read noise mode. So you can see that the frame rate drops in LRN mode, but the read noise itself also drops. So if you're doing long exposure deep sky, you want it in LRN mode and just forget about it. You know what I mean? Just use it in that mode and enjoy yourself. Again, that 0 amp glow, awesome to see that. And just scrolling down a little bit more. As we mentioned, adjustable fan speed, adjustable heater power. Really nice. We've got gain measurements and readout noise, full well capacity, dynamic range, graphs again for the whole thing, actually in both modes. That's really good to see. Normal mode and LRN mode, so these are comprehensive graphs. And HCG mode opens on this camera, which is where I'll be using the Aries. At gain 125, we get that same drop off a cliff of read noise down to 1.376 in LRN mode, and the boost in dynamic range up to 13.564. Dark current. Now I mentioned I think this one is darker, and indeed it is. Look at this. I mean 0.000044 electrons per second per pixel at -20. That's nuts. That really is nuts. It's just practically not even worth counting at that point. You can see now by the way, the monochrome camera and the color version, they don't have that boosted infrared response like the Uranus has on those StarViz 2 sensors. So by 850, remember the Uranus graph boosted again in sensitivity. But the 533s behave a lot more like a normal camera should. Interesting to see. Here's your back focus solutions, and here's what comes in the box. Right, I've talked your ears off with that. Let's jump into SharpCap and we'll test out, first of all, the one that's plugged in, the Uranus-C. Now I'm using a beta version of SharpCap. Here we go, just got the normal driver, so Uranus-C Pro. The cooler, let's turn that on and get a measurement on this thing. The fan's just fired up. Currently sat at 23.8 degrees in this room, if you guys can see that there, and we're looping exposures at 46 frames per second, just 46, 45.8. So it's maintaining max frames as it promised that it would. Now if I turn down the region of interest, pretending like we're doing some planetary imaging or something like that, maybe down to, I don't know, 640 by 480 for example, we're now capped by the exposure length, so I'll just drop that down, and we're achieving 417 frames per second. Wow. Yeah, that's boosting along nicely. And if we try that same test, so full resolution, but this time in raw 16 mode, we're now achieving 23 frames per second. By the looks of it, you can just see the readout just down at the bottom of the screen right there if you want to keep an eye on that a second. Now we're quite capable of adjusting exposure lengths, it seems, so the driver looks to be working normally. We can change the gain, we can change the offset. As you can see, we're having a change on the screen right there. If I just pop up the histogram, by the way, I'll change my gain to where I'm going to use it, so probably 180. Turn this back down to more like a bias frame value, and now I'm going to try and get a decent value set for the offset. So I'm going to do this by just making sure that on these short exposures that nothing is clipped off the left hand side of the histogram. So we've got most pixels around a 4.6-4.7% value. So 180 gain, 50 offset looks like a decent setting for me. 100 offset also does it, but maybe it's a little bit too bright by that point, eating too much of that sensor's dynamic range. So cooling is well underway, I imagine. Let's just take a little bit of a look. It's outputting 12 watts to maintain 2.7 degrees so far, so it's still cooling down from an ambient temperature of 24.8 degrees. So I've achieved just about 22 degrees so far of cooling on only 12 watts DC. That's awesome to see. Now, that's a very brief test, I realize, guys, but I'm just for now really quickly going to turn off the Uranus in this particular program. Open up Nina, make sure it works in that too for anybody who's a user of that like I am. Let's make sure everything's working. So we've got the options for the dew heater. Turn that on. The dew heater strength, I'm going to turn that up a bit to like 60%. Default gain, I'm going to set that also, why not? And my offset I determined to be 50. USB limit, I'm going to leave that max. Fan speed's going to be fine at 70, and if I just hit the cooling, I'll just tell it to go to 0 for now. Fans just whirred into action once again. Don't know if you guys will be able to hear this actually, or whether it'll pick up too much noise, but that's the fan noise at 70%. That's at 30%. That's at 100%. So I don't know exactly how this is going to sound for you guys, but I thought I was saying, why not just do that? It's definitely not an annoying noise. If you're outside on a, crystal clear night listening to nothingness, that wouldn't be bugging you, I would say. So anyway, it's on the way down. It does cool, it does warm, I imagine, and the whole thing looks like it's working a treat. Now let's do that same test. I just want to make sure about those frame rates and things in SharpCap. So let's hook over the cameras. I'm just going to keep this going absolutely live for you guys because why not? So power in first. USB hooked up now, so that's now plugged in and ready to go. I don't actually have the drivers installed for that filter wheel, but no matter. Sure enough, there it is, the Aries-M Pro. So let's just take a little bit of a look. I can't really see my own screen. 42.5, 42.6 frames per second at full resolution in mono 8. I think that's what it was promising, so it's achieved that already just using a front USB on my PC. That's good to see. Now if we go into 640 by 480 crop mode and just drop the exposure right down like we did for the Uranus test, we can see this camera is achieving 272 frames per second if you were going to use it as a planetary camera or something like that. Really rather neat. I'm pleased to see that. Now I am going to use, I think it said gain 125 was the correct measurement on the graph. If I just double check that a second. Yeah, HCG gain mode at 125, no problem. And I'm going to do the same trick again, once again using the histogram to determine a good offset value. So let's just loop some exposures and see for a moment. I'll set off the cooling too, why not? Just heard the fan spin up, and it looks like I'm going to have to increase the offset a little bit more than anticipated for this thing. That's very odd. So around about 1000, this goes up a long way. There's the offset right up to 1500 value. Seems like this sensor's potentially even less noisy perhaps. Is that why I'm having trouble seeing the offset change? I'll try boosting the gain a little bit to maybe we'll use it around gain 200 like I use my Poseidon C at. Turn down that offset, so the offset value is working. It could perhaps do with being extended a little bit, but it looks like with an offset value of what, 1000, we've got most things around a 1.3, 1.4% value right there. So that's interesting to see. I don't know if that's going to be fine. It should be. Nothing should be clipping to black on that, but again, this is why we're testing. It's worth taking a look at, right? So anyway, the cooling is working. Let's just take a look at the power consumption. It seems to be exactly the same, to be quite honest with you, as the other cameras you might expect. So we're at we're at 6 degrees sensor temperature, 26 degrees. I think this is probably picking up a tiny bit of heat from this thing, but all the same. So roughly 20 degree delta by this point, just over, and it's consuming 11 watts of power to do it. So that's working. Let's test once again in Nina. Whoops, I already got Nina open, haven't I? Let's just jump in over here, refresh the Aries. Again, apologies if this seems like it's a bit of a rough test or something, guys, but I want it to be as real as possible for you. So it's just like you've got it out of the box and you're doing your own first tests effectively. So we could do that microphone test once again. We will turn on the cooling. I want the target dew heater strength somewhere around, 70% or whatever. Readout mode, I'm going to set those into low noise for both, as that's where I'm going to be using it. Gain 180, offset 50 they've got set. So I think, and I could well be wrong, but that looks like it's probably way too low. So I'm going to go an offset of 1000. Gain 200, USB limit 100, that looks fine. And how do we adjust the fan speed on this one? Oh, here we go. So it's right there, fan speed 70%. So same camera distance. The noise sounds exactly the same to me, but whatever. 70%, 30%, 100%. So that's the sound of the fan. Again, non-offensive in any sense of the word. So anyway, guys, that's about it. I reckon I can't really do much more testing until I can get this thing out underneath the night sky, and we will go from there. So until then, thank you very much indeed for watching and giving all your support. It's thanks to you that I'm even able to do things like this and get so much cool gear to test and share with all of you guys. So I am extremely, hand on heart, extremely grateful to each and every one of you. So with that said, that's about it from me, guys. Thank you all for your support. Look after yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Cliss, guys.